I wanted love, a life together, something long-lasting. He looked for better options behind my back. When the truth came out, I didn't fall to my knees. I walked away, and chose myself. I met Grayson at a birthday dinner for a friend of a friend, the kind where you don't expect much except a decent glass of wine and maybe someone cute to flirt with. He wasn't the hottest guy in the room or the loudest or the most charming, but he was the one who asked thoughtful questions and didn't look at his phone once during a 3-hour meal. That caught my attention. I didn't say anything that night, just tucked the moment away. A few days later he found me on Instagram, slid into my DMs with a joke about the waiter's terrible pronunciation of bruschetta, and it started. I was 25, working my ass off in a PR internship that barely covered groceries. He was a software engineer, finishing his master's. We'd probably crossed paths on campus before, but neither of us noticed. With him everything felt slow, easy, like we weren't trying to impress each other. He'd show up with leftover Indian takeout and we'd sit on my floor eating and making lists of places we wanted to visit someday. When we finally kissed it was at 2 a.m. on a Sunday while folding laundry. It wasn't fireworks, but it was real. A year later we moved in together. It just made sense. He already had a place, 2-bedroom apartment in a quieter part of the city, and I was tired of my Craigslist roommates and cold showers. I offered to split rent and bills, 50-50. He hesitated at first, said something about how I was still finding my footing financially, but I insisted. I didn't want to feel like I owed anyone. So we split everything. Rent, utilities, groceries, even dog food when we adopted an anxious little rescue mutt named Lucky. My name wasn't on the lease, but I treated that place like home. We picked out furniture together, argued over curtains, hosted Friendsgiving twice. I met his family that winter. They were warm, loud, overly Midwestern in the way that felt foreign to me as a Latina from Miami, but they hugged me like I'd been around forever. My family loved him too. Said he was stable, kind, the kind of man you build a life with. And I wanted that. I wanted it bad. A tiny backyard, a shared Netflix account, kids who looked like both of us. So I gave that relationship everything. Every Sunday at the farmer's market, every lunch break I spent searching for his mom's birthday gift, every phone call where I talked him down after a bad week at work. And he showed up too, at first. We had routines. Movie nights. Cheap tacos on Tuesdays. Saturday mornings at the dog park. He'd kiss my forehead and say he was lucky. That he didn't believe in soulmates until me. We didn't rush things. We didn't need to. But by our 3rd year together, I started dropping hints about marriage. Nothing aggressive, just light stuff. What kind of wedding would you want? Or, do you like the idea of eloping? He never said no. But he also never said yes. Just smiled and said, one day. And I believed him. Because when someone tells you they love you every night before bed, you don't question their timing. You trust it'll come. You wait. I was still waiting when everything started to shift, and I didn't see it coming. It started at a dinner party with friends, one of those stupid games people play after a few glasses of wine when everyone's laughing too loud and saying things they probably shouldn't. If you could go back and try again with one person, who would it be? Someone asked, teasing, playful, and not meant to land the way it did. And then Grayson, half drunk, not even looking at me, said, if things hadn't ended so messy with Haley, maybe life would have gone differently. Just like that. Like I wasn't sitting right next to him, like I was invisible in my own relationship. The room went still. Someone laughed awkwardly. He blinked, like he hadn't realized he said it out loud, and followed it with a lazy, obviously I love where I am now, I'm just saying, you know. But I knew. I didn't say a word the rest of the night. I drove us home in silence, but my fingers were clenched around the steering wheel the entire way, and the second we got inside, I went to bed without looking at him. He didn't even follow. Next morning he acted like nothing happened. What do you want from Starbucks? He asked, and I said, nothing, because I wasn't sure I could swallow anything with that acid still sitting in my throat. A few days later I finally brought it up. So, Haley? I said it like a question, but it felt like a dare. He didn't flinch. Just said, it wasn't serious. Just a thought. You know how those games go. But I remembered Haley. She was serious enough that I'd seen her picture on his fridge the first time I came over. Serious enough that his mom still accidentally mentioned her name during Christmas dinner the first year I joined. And now she was serious enough that, apparently, he still thought about her. Still wondered. That was the beginning. After that, it all started feeling off. He got distant, but in a way that felt calculated. Like he was making space for something I couldn't see yet. He started working later, saying he had last-minute deadlines, or needed to grind through a sprint. But I knew how his company worked. I knew his team. Those kinds of hours didn't just appear out of nowhere. He'd come home smelling like unfamiliar cologne. Not perfume. Just something foreign. Like a different world I wasn't part of. I asked him once, casually, what project he was working on that was keeping him so busy. He gave me a vague answer and changed the subject. That night, I checked his location on Find My. It was off. Not glitching, off. Disabled. I don't know how long I stared at my phone before it hit me. He didn't want to be found. And maybe he wasn't doing anything. Maybe I was just spiraling. But I'd never had to spiral before. I never doubted him before. And now I was double-checking locations, watching his eyes when he talked to me, trying to read the spaces between his words. One night I came home early and found him in the kitchen, scrolling on his phone with that small, private smile he used to have only for me. When I stepped in, he jumped slightly and locked his screen. "Hey babe," he said like nothing happened. "You're home early." I just nodded. My mouth was dry. That night I lay awake, listening to his breathing, wondering who else he smiled like that for. Wondering when exactly I became a placeholder in the life I thought we were building together. We didn't talk about the dinner party again, but it stayed between us like a third person at the table, always listening. The silence got heavier. He was more polite than loving. I was more tired than angry. Then one evening, over takeout and a half-watched show, he said, "I've been thinking, maybe we should take a break." I blinked. Thought maybe I misheard. What kind of break? I asked, even though I already knew. He looked at his food, not at me. Just some space. Time to figure things out. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I said, "So go figure it out," and he did. Packed a bag that night and left like he'd already planned it. Like the idea of time apart wasn't new. Like Haley was already waiting for him on the other end of this decision. I didn't call. I didn't check in. I just stopped. Stopped asking, stopped hoping, stopped trying to fix something I didn't break. For a week, nothing. No texts. No missed calls. Just emptiness. Until he showed up on a Sunday evening, like it was any other day. Same hoodie, same crooked smile, like the last 10 days hadn't shattered everything. "I've made up my mind," he said. "I want to be with you." And for a second, I wanted to believe him. I wanted to rewind the tape and pretend none of this happened. But something in me had already hardened. "I'm not plan B," I said. He looked confused, like he thought just showing up was enough. What? I stood there, arms crossed. "I'm not someone you come back to when it doesn't work out with her." He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. "You don't disappear to explore unfinished business and then decide you want me again like I'm some consolation prize." He stepped closer. I was confused. "No," I cut in. "You were selfish." His mouth snapped shut. For the first time, I saw regret flicker across his face. But it wasn't enough. Not anymore. I'd spent days crying, doubting, blaming myself, thinking maybe I wasn't exciting enough, good enough, important enough. And now he wanted to come back. Now that he'd tested the waters and didn't like how cold they were. I shook my head. "I'm not angry," I told him. "But you don't get to rewrite what happened." He stood in the doorway like a ghost of someone I used to know. I didn't invite him in. I didn't hug him. I didn't ask him to stay. I closed the door behind him, locked it, and leaned my back against it, not because I was afraid he'd knock again, but because I needed something solid behind me while I finally let myself breathe. He didn't come back after that. Not physically, not digitally. No texts, no calls, not even a meme sent to feel out if I was still soft enough to let him in. And that was fine. I wasn't waiting. I started showing up to my own life again. I rearranged the living room. Bought new sheets. Took myself out to dinner and didn't feel weird sitting alone. I started sleeping better. Not because I missed him less, but because I trusted myself more. And then, 3 weeks later, a mutual friend tagged me in a story from Haley's page. I didn't follow her. I never needed to. But there it was, a blurry group shot, drinks, laughter, her hand on his chest. Caption: some things are worth the wait. My stomach didn't even drop. Just twisted once like a cramp before fading. I didn't cry. I didn't even send it to anyone. I just stared at the screen and whispered to myself, I knew it. It wasn't a breakup. It was a slow unpeeling of a lie. It was watching someone I loved morph into someone I didn't recognize and realizing I'd already been grieving him long before he left. The real grief was for the version of me that kept making excuses for him. That version deserved better. So I started giving her better. I deleted old photos. Blocked his number. Unfollowed the playlists we used to share. I stopped checking who viewed my stories. I stopped imagining what he'd say if I bumped into him on the street. I stopped writing conversations in my head that he was never going to have with me. I didn't burn his stuff. I boxed it. Dropped it off at his sister's with a note, no hard feelings, just done. She looked at me like she wanted to say something, maybe defend him, maybe apologize. But I didn't give her the space. Just handed her the box, thanked her, and walked back to my car. That was the last time I let any of his mess into my day. And the real full circle moment came 6 weeks later. I got an email from the venue we'd booked for our engagement party. They were following up on a cancellation. Turns out he hadn't called them. Never bothered. I wrote them back, we won't be needing the space. Feel free to open the date. And then, on a whim, I booked that same space for a private event. My birthday. Just me and the friends who stayed. The ones who watched me fall apart and didn't rush me to rebuild. We laughed. We danced. We drank cheap Prosecco and ugly cried to old songs. I stood in the middle of the room we were supposed to celebrate our future in and realized I was finally free from all of it. I didn't need closure from him. I didn't need one last conversation. I didn't need him to regret it. The truth was enough. He didn't choose me when it counted. And that's all the closure I'll ever need. When I first met Alex, I wasn't even looking. That's what they always say, right? That the best things happen when you stop searching. But I wasn't just not searching, I was actively avoiding. I'd gotten out of something bad the year before, and I wasn't interested in repeating the same pattern, giving too much, shrinking myself, becoming the cool, low-maintenance girlfriend who never asks for too much. I was over it. Done. But there he was, tall, a little awkward, with that quiet kind of confidence that didn't need a spotlight. We worked at the same tech firm in downtown Chicago, different teams but shared lunches sometimes, mutual friends from HR. The first time we talked more than just, hey, was during a fire drill, of all things. Standing outside freezing, he handed me his coffee without asking. You look like you're dying, he said. Thanks, I replied, wrapping my hands around the cup. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me today. We laughed. And after that, it was like some door had opened. I didn't fall right away, I was cautious. But he was patient in a way I didn't expect from guys anymore. He didn't rush. He didn't play games. He walked me to the train a few times, offered to grab lunch when things got hectic, listened more than he talked. It felt safe. And that was rare. We started dating a couple months later, quiet and easy. No grand declarations, just two people slowly carving out space in each other's lives. After about a year, I moved into his place, a clean, minimal apartment in River North that he'd been renting since grad school. We split things evenly, kept our independence, but made space for each other. He liked routine, I liked quiet. It worked. Somewhere in that second year, I let myself believe we were building something real. Not the obsessive, dramatic love I'd grown up seeing in movies, something steadier, something sustainable. He'd say things like, "You're the calm in the noise." I started to believe maybe I was. We started talking about traveling. I'd never been to Europe, so I told him my dream was Italy: food, sun, those tiny cobblestone streets that look like movie sets. He smiled when I said it. "Italy, then. Let's start planning." I thought he meant it. I really did. It felt like the beginning of a life we were building, not just trips and plans but a rhythm that matched. I met his parents. They liked me. His mom hugged me the second time we met, said I'd balanced him out. He met mine, too, during Thanksgiving. My dad gave him that quiet, searching stare dads do when they want to make sure you're not wasting your time. Later that night, Dad nodded and said, "He seems solid." And that meant a lot. He never said that about anyone before. At work, people started calling us the office couple, in that half-joking, half-envy way. We didn't rub it in. We weren't annoying about it. But we were stable. Predictable. "You guys just work," my friend Marina said once. And I remember smiling because, yeah, we did. At least, I thought we did. Things started shifting slowly, the way seasons do, not with a bang, but with a quiet ache in the air you can't name. It started with her name. Emily. I saw it once on his phone when he left it charging in the kitchen. Nothing incriminating, just Emily, design, and a string of texts about some project they were collaborating on. I didn't say anything. I wasn't the type to snoop. And she really did work in design. I'd seen her around the office, one of those effortlessly pretty girls who laughs with her whole body and always seems like she's in on some joke you missed. I didn't feel threatened, not at first. But then he started canceling dinner plans. Said work was picking up. Clients insane. Emily and I are trying to salvage this timeline. I believed him. I wanted to. But my stomach started doing that thing, that low, sick turn it does when your body knows something before your brain will let it land. I asked him one night, casually, while we were brushing our teeth. "You and Emily seem to be working a lot of late nights." He spit, rinsed, looked at me in the mirror. "She's just a work buddy." "You're being weird." I laughed, but it didn't reach my eyes. I let it go. I always let things go. Then came that stupid office holiday party. Everyone was drinking, music blasting, the end-of-year energy thick and loud. I was sitting with a couple coworkers when I saw him across the room, laughing at something Emily said. She touched his arm. Just a second too long. My coworker nudged me, "Your boy's got a little fan club tonight." I laughed it off, but my hands felt cold. I waited until we got home. "Do you like her?" I asked. "What?" He looked at me like I was crazy. "Emily. Do you like her?" He rolled his eyes, dropped his coat on the chair. "Are we really doing this?" "She's just a friend." God, can I not even talk to people now? And I let it go again. Told myself I was being paranoid. That I needed to trust him. That love without trust is just a cage. But that voice in my head, the one I've spent years learning to ignore, it was screaming. 2 weeks later he asked for space. Said he needed to clear his head. Said he wasn't sure what he wanted, not just from us, from everything. "I feel stuck," he said. "Maybe some time apart would help." I remember staring at him across our kitchen island, coffee going cold between us, thinking, stuck? We were planning Italy 2 months ago. You said I was the calm. You kissed me like I was home. And now you're stuck. I didn't cry. I just nodded. Packed a bag. Went to Megan's place and crashed on her couch. He didn't call. Not for a week. Not even to ask how I was doing. And when he finally texted, it was short. "Hope you're okay." That was it. I checked his social the next morning. Private, but the profile photo had changed. He was smiling. And there was a glass of wine in the corner of the frame. A woman's hand holding it. I didn't expect to feel that kind of clarity so soon, but after I stopped trying to be what he wanted, my life cracked open in ways I didn't even see coming. I didn't quit my job, no dramatic exits, no grand declarations. I just started choosing myself every day in the quietest, sharpest ways I could. It started with little things. I cut my hair. Nothing drastic, but enough to feel like I could see a different woman in the mirror. I signed up for dance classes, something I always wanted to do but never had the time. Funny how fast you find time when you stop shrinking for someone else's comfort. I started sleeping better. Eating real meals. Laughing more. Megan said I looked like I had light under my skin again, like my eyes were finally mine. And yeah, maybe I posted a few pictures, not revenge posts, not thirst traps. Just me, present, alive, unapologetic. When I heard Grayson had taken a sudden leave of absence from work, it barely registered. Megan told me he was off the grid for a bit, and I just nodded. I didn't ask questions. Didn't care to. I had music in my headphones and a life to step into. And I did. For a month, I barely remembered what it felt like to beg for his attention. And then he came back. No warning. Just showed up one Monday morning like nothing happened. And for a second, I felt that tightness in my chest again, the reflex of who I used to be. But it passed. Because I wasn't her anymore. I was in a different place. And he looked the same. A little tired. A little thinner. Still walking like the hallway owed him something. The first time he saw me, he stopped in his tracks. I didn't. I kept walking. That was the beginning. The first email was polite. Hey. You look well. Would love to talk. I didn't respond. The second one was longer. I know I messed up. You didn't deserve that. I was confused. I miss you. Still didn't respond. Then he started showing up in places I didn't expect. The parking lot. The break room. The cafe across the street. Not saying much. Just being there. Watching. Waiting. Megan noticed first. He's orbiting you, she said one afternoon as we sat at lunch. Like he's trying to find the right time to land. I laughed. Let him crash. But it wasn't funny. Not really. The looks turned into attempts at conversation. Hey, you got a second? I just want to talk. Can we please clear the air? I kept saying no. Not rudely. Just directly. No. Not interested. Not anymore. I started walking different routes home. Leaving later. Keeping my head down. I told Megan it was fine, that I had it under control, but even she could see the edges fraying. One Thursday, I caught him waiting by the elevator after everyone else left. That was the moment I knew it wasn't just guilt or nostalgia driving him. It was desperation. And desperation has sharp teeth. I didn't give him a scene. I didn't raise my voice. I just walked past him and into the stairwell, heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear my own thoughts. That night, I drafted an email to HR. I didn't send it. Not yet. But I saved it in drafts. Just in case. Because I knew. The next part was coming. And I needed to be ready. He showed up at my door on a Saturday night, drunk. Not tipsy. Drunk. Slurring, swaying, pounding on the door like he had every right to be there. I didn't open it. Not once. I just stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, my heart like ice in my chest. He shouted my name. Apologized. Begged. Said he missed me, said he couldn't stop thinking about me, said the other girl meant nothing. I don't even know how long it went on. The neighbors called the cops before I did. By the time the patrol car pulled up, he was sitting on the floor outside my door, back against the wall, mumbling to himself like the ghost of the man I used to know. They cuffed him gently. One officer knocked on my door to ask if I was okay. I nodded, even though my hands wouldn't stop shaking. He said they'd take care of it. I said thank you. That was it. That was the night I filed the restraining order. I didn't want to. I didn't feel powerful doing it. I felt tired. But I needed peace, and he made that impossible. HR didn't need the draft email. They already knew. Megan had spoken up on my behalf. And apparently, I wasn't the only one he'd been bothering. When I walked into the office the next week, his desk was empty. His name gone from the directory. Quietly, cleanly, he was removed. No big scene. Just absence. The way he wanted to erase me, I erased him. Word spread that he left the city. Some said he went back to his parents. Others said he just disappeared. I didn't ask. Didn't care. I was too busy living. Not surviving, living. My dance class was prepping for a showcase. Megan and I had tickets to Italy in the spring. I'd started dating again. Nothing serious. Just coffee, some laughter, being seen. I kept waiting to feel bitter. But I didn't. He thought he could put me on a shelf, come back when he felt ready, and I'd be waiting, untouched, unchanged. But I bloomed. And when he returned, there was no place left for him. No seat at the table. No version of me that still saw him as home. He left because he thought I was plan B. But I was never a backup. I was the life he didn't believe I'd build without him. And I did. Brick by brick. Laugh by laugh. Step by goddamn step. Subscribe, hit the like button, and explore more fascinating stories.